All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're talking about a word we all think we know, religion. But what if the way we use it today is completely wrong? What if its real meaning has been buried over time?
Seriously, what if religion wasn't about what you believe in your head, but about what you do with your hands? How you actually take care of the people around you. Let's dig into that.
Okay, so here's the plan for this explainer. First, we're going to uncover what pure religion actually meant. Then, we'll look at two systems that are totally at odds with each other. We'll dive into something called the welfare snare, see how that creates a real problem for us today, and finally, talk about what it might look like to get back to the way.
All right, first up, what is pure religion? To get this, we've got to go way back and look at an ancient definition.
This verse from James, it's pretty much the key to this whole thing. And you know what's interesting? Notice what it doesn't say. There's nothing in there about specific beliefs or rituals. Instead, it defines religion by two very clear actions. First, you gotta actively care for the vulnerable, the fatherless and widows. And second, you have to keep yourself unspotted from the world. And what that means in this context is staying free from its power structures.
So with that in mind, for a long, long time, religion was really just the method a community used to take care of each other. It wasn't so much a belief system as it was a social system. Think of it like a private welfare program, all based on a sense of shared duty. But then, things changed. A huge shift happened. The whole idea of religion started moving away from community action and became all about personal, internal belief. The focus went from what people do together to what one person thinks all by themselves. And that one little change, well, it created a massive fork in the road. And that fork in the road led to a huge conflict between two completely different ways of running a society. Okay, so this chart really breaks down the two competing models. On one side, you've got pure religion, based in the church. It's all about charity, liberty, and faith, creating a system of private welfare. But on the other side, you have public religion, based in the state. And according to this view, it operates on force, covetousness, and becomes a snare, creating what we call social welfare. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. The early Christians actually did this. They built their own private welfare systems from the ground up. They made a conscious choice to refuse the free bread that the Roman Empire was handing out from its government temples. Why? Because they saw it as taking part in a system that was the total opposite of their own principles of community and care. This leads us to a really challenging idea, this concept of a welfare snare. The argument is that government welfare, even with the best intentions, can actually become a trap. So where does this idea come from? Well, it's drawn from a quote in Romans, which warns that the table set for your benefit can become a snare, a trap. In this view, that table is a symbol for government benefits, the place where rulers hand out provisions to the people. So what does that table of rulers look like today? Well, from this perspective, it's our modern social safety net. We're talking about things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, government subsidies. The argument here is that these systems, even though they mean well, are basically the modern version of that biblical snare. And there's actually a historical word for this exact kind of system, Corban. This was a state-run treasury where forced contributions, not charity, were the rule. Once you paid into the system, you were kind of off the hook for taking care of your own family and neighbors. And this outsourcing of personal duty, the argument goes, completely destroyed the core ideas of community and faith. So this isn't just some dusty history lesson. It brings up a really tough dilemma for us today. It really boils down to a question of allegiance. The question it forces us to ask is, where are you placing your trust? Is it in a community system built on charity and personal responsibility? Or is it in a state system run by what are called the fathers of the earth, the authorities who hand out the benefits? Let me put it another way. It's asking us to think really hard about where our security comes from. Are you seeking the benefits from nations that are frankly bankrupt? Or are you seeking the benefits that come from Christ's appointed kingdom, which is built on a totally different foundation? Okay, so with all that on the table, let's talk about the proposed solution. This section is all about what it would mean to return to the way. So what's the path back? Well, it's laid out in 4 steps. First, repent of covetous practices. And what that means in this context is to stop relying on forced taxes from your neighbor for your own welfare. Second, you start forming networks of righteousness, real communities of mutual support. Third, You provide for one another through pure charity within those networks. And finally, you get back to attending to the weightier matters, things like care, justice, and mercy. And this final quote from Proverbs really sums up the choice. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. In this view, diligence means you're actively building a community of care, which leads to true self-governance. But slothfulness? That's defined as depending on a big, centralized system, which ultimately puts you under tribute, meaning you're dependent on and subject to that power. So, if this explainer made you think, if it gave you a new perspective on religion and society, please help other people find it. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share it with others. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, too. Now, obviously, this was a really quick look at a huge, complex topic. If you want to go deeper and really get into the details and all the supporting arguments, you've got to check out the source article. The link for that is right down in the description. And finally, if this whole idea resonates with you and you want to be part of the solution we talked about, there's a living network of people already seeking God's kingdom this way. If you're interested, the link to join is also in the description. Thanks so much for watching.